kind whatsoever that there is truth to anything they're saying. And a lot of stuff they're doing here is it's incredibly dangerous for all the reasons that all these non-biased doctors have said. But I just want to know, I kind of want to understand the other side's argument and how to rebut it a little bit better. And the fact that I don't is making me uncomfortable, if that makes any sense. I hope I'm making sense here. All right, let's talk about some of the other things that have been going on here. Peter Navarro, the hawkish White House trade advisor, accused China on Sunday of profiting off of the coronavirus pandemic by hoarding global supplies of personal and protective equipment and selling them at exorbitant prices around the world. President Trump has put Navarro, the author of Death by China, in charge of streamlining America's medical supply chain as the federal government works to distribute masks, medicines, and ventilators across the country. The comments made on Fox Business Network represent the latest escalation in the Trump administration's efforts to publicly blame China for the health crisis that have caused thousands of deaths and is crippling the world economy. And that's where I'm really conflicted about this, because the whole idea is, blaming China, that's something that we shouldn't do. It's like calling the coronavirus the Chinese virus. But, I think I think you have to look at this logically, and there's this whole idea of just because Trump says something is good doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, or vice versa. I think that's it's a dangerous pattern you can fall into, and it leads you to, I think, a lot of wrong assertions. There has been times that Trump has been right. There's been times, for example, what we saw with some of the things he's done in Syria. Pulling troops out of Syria. He was hit hard for that, but then he just bombed. I don't know. I don't want to give Trump too much credit here, but there's times where there's something, I guess you could say, in the middle. Maybe there's a third position. I think this is a great example of there's a third position here. And I think the third position, the kind of position that I have, is it's probably closer to Trump. I think there is a lot of responsibility that China has. I think their numbers are definitely false. I think there's no denying that. Some of the stuff they put out there is definitely false. But, and there is blame to go around for China on the way they've handled this, and America has, through very bad leadership, let China gobble up so much of its supply chain. But I think literally blaming China for this, though, is I think it's very important to realize that China just didn't convince us. They didn't put a little magic trick in our drink or something like that to be we are sending these jobs over here because we have an economy brought up by manufacturing, brought up by corporations. We let them do it. We sent these jobs. We sent this money all overseas, all in the service of capitalism and keeping that the gaping maw, as it's sometimes referred to, keeping that wide open and shoveling as much money into it as humanly possible, just having it gobbled up. And right now, it's the same. Really, what I just picture is just this big, monstrous blue whale type creature with a big, wide mouth, huge dagger-like teeth. And right now, that mouth is, for the large part, shut. There's a bunch of people, including the protesters, including the people who are backing the protesters, including a bunch of powerful people. They're trying desperately to push that mouth back open and let the money flow, let the products flow, let the capital flow through the big sea creature again. I guess you could say it's just always swimming at the same pace, never stopping, and everything is flowing through its always gaping mouth, I guess is how I would put it. But I just don't think that if you come in and you blame China, I think that's missing a lot of things that we've done wrong. That's missing a lot of things that we've done wrong, and I think that's just another way to shift responsibility. But on the same token, on the other hand, by that same point, China has done a lot of stuff wrong. So you can see, I'm incredibly conflicted here. I just don't know exactly. I know that China has done stuff wrong. I know they probably lied about their numbers. I know that they were awful in containing the virus. They tried to cover it up. But, for example, Trump literally called it a hoax. He has time and time again downplayed this into ways that should be unforgivable for any other president. We have continued to let jobs go overseas to China, even during the Trump presidency. But it's a problem of that same thing. Like, we shouldn't blame China for our jobs going overseas. That's a problem for us, and that's a problem presented by the fact that our politics is brought off by global industry, and there's no mediating influence on those very, very powerful interests anymore. So, yeah. It's saying China is sitting on that hoard of PPE where it's cornered the market and it's profiteering, says Navarro. I have cases coming across my desk where 50-cent masks are made in China and are being sold to hospitals in America for as much as $8. Navarro also attempted to stir allegations that China lied about the origins of the coronavirus, which was discovered in Wuhan in December. Health experts have said the virus likely jumped from an animal to a human in a market, but he stoked speculation on Saturday the virus actually originated from a laboratory, which is starting to, by that claim, though, it's starting to make more and more sense, because there is a lab in the Wuhan area that it has an incredibly poor health and safety rating, where they're discovering bat-based viruses. So, it's not a crazy idea. I still, obviously, you need more evidence, but it is really very disturbing to see this kind of this push by both our government and really by, if some of these allegations are true that Navarro is making, by the Chinese government to just shift responsibility back and forth away from each other. Because America, they have a lot of stuff to blame for it, and I think it's just so laughable that we assert blame on China for the stuff that, our supply chains, our jobs, they're leaving. No, we did that. China did not do that. We did that. It's a very, very important thing to realize for the future. We'll talk more about this capitalist hunger through a blog post by discourse.blog's Jack Bergenson next. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough for listening to programming from the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. It really means a lot. So, if you like what you're hearing, please consider supporting us by checking out our merch store available on Spreaker.com/TSWS. The link for it is there. Also, if you like what you're hearing, feel free to leave us a review on wherever or however you listen. You can do it on Spreaker by leaving a positive comment, and of course on iTunes by rating and reviewing us 5 stars, and on whatever possible program or site that you listen to SWRN on, leave a nice review, leave a good comment, let us know your feedback, and also if it's negative too, I always welcome constructive feedback. Thank you so much for listening, and now let's get back to your show.
I got the bag. Tell a friend.
It's Newsflash, and we are talking about a lot of fun stuff today on the show. We'll talk about the capitalist machine feeding resistance to the coronavirus. We'll talk about that big gaping sea creature wanting more all the time. We'll talk about Donna Shalala. She's been selected to this bailout oversight panel and why that is just a mockery of the whole process. And we'll delve a little bit deeper into this AOC situation. That is what we have coming up on Newsflash. So, on Thursday, you may know Donald Trump, this is again reporting here from Jack Merkinson, reportedly told governors that states with beautifully low numbers of coronavirus cases should open up and get back to work. Also on Thursday, the White House released its blueprint for how it thinks states can start ditching shelter-in-place orders as early as May 1st. Axios reports that Republican-led states like Alabama and Mississippi could move very quickly to open their states. Also on Thursday, Dr. Phil went on Fox News to say, among other things, 360,000 people a year die from swimming pools. But we don't shut the economy down from that, yet we're doing it for this. 360,000 people, in fact, do not die each year from swimming pools, believe it or not. But it is, he got it wrong. It's 3,000 people, not 360,000. So that's an important thing to realize. But here is some stuff about this. This is, again, a guy who has no medical credentials talking about this.
More than 90%
on
of
the
Americans
Ingram
are
angle. Let's
still living
get a little bit
under
of a
stay-at-home
taste
orders
here.
that might change. Psychologist, author, and host of Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, thanks so much for being on with us. I think this isn't part of the calculation of the bending the curve and all of those graphs that we see, and they're very interesting. I'm not saying they're not important, but those comments aren't taken into consideration when we look at those graphs.
Well, Laura, they never are, and thank you for having me on, and thank you for giving a voice to this because it's so very important. This is invisible. I can't show you an X-ray of depression. I can't show you an X-ray of anxiety, but the fact of the matter is the longer this lockdown goes on, the more vulnerable people get, and it's like there's a tipping point. There's a point at which people start having enough problems in lockdown that it will actually create more destruction and actually more death across time than the actual virus will itself. 250 people a year die from poverty. And the poverty line is getting such that more and more people are going to fall below that because the economy is crashing around us. And they're doing that because people are dying from the coronavirus. I get that. But look, the fact of the matter is we have people dying. 45,000 people a year die from automobile accidents, 480,000 from cigarettes, 360,000 a year from swimming pools. But we don't shut the country down for that. But yet we're doing it for this. And the fallout is going to last for years because people's lives are being destroyed.
Yeah, so that's that talk about that. And again, it's something that I think my really biggest motivation about this is like what it has been is that like this is going to hurt so many people, and it's something that's really, really uncomfortable. You want to see the people go back to work, but also like you got to remind yourself that there is ways to handle this effectively. There is ways to handle this effectively. On Thursday, Las Vegas Mayor Carol Goodman groused that her city is shut down. We don't want to lose anybody, but it's part of life, and I also want people back to work. Also on Thursday, 4,591 people in America died from the coronavirus, an increase of more than 2,000 from the day before. You think that last fact would have some impact on all those people, but instead it seems that the ever-increasing calls for COVID-19 deaths in this country, and that's really what they are. It's a call for death. It's literally what it is. Anyone who says opening up the economy, you are calling for death. You're calling for people to die. It's just that simple. It is just that simple. And there's a bunch of things that are like it's not like it's a good situation even if you stay the way it is. Like if you keep it the way it is now with the social distancing, it's not a good situation, not a desirable situation. But you're calling for safety and you're calling for people to save lives. That's the way it stands right now. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Yeah. It's the Goodman's quote that really sticks out. The mayor of Las Vegas, Carolyn Goodman, says, "We don't want to lose anybody, but it's part of life, and so I want people back to work." It's really summed up perfectly. Work over life. Work over everything. People dying at astronomical rates when they could have been saved is just how the world is. It's part of life. It happens. It sucks. It really does, but it happens. Yeah, unnecessarily mass death is regrettable, but ultimately unimportant. People not working, though, that is hell. So, yeah, like, what is going on here? It is certainly true that the reopening crowd is eager to throw millions of workers into the slaughterhouse because they prioritize the sating of the hungry capitalist beast over anything else. But there is more to it than that, says Jack Ferguson here. We are living in a period when governments everywhere are actually having to take some level of responsibility for their citizens. We have tumbled into a time where a staggering amount of solidarity is required of everyone, where we must put the greater good over our own happiness or comfort. Our political leaders all of a sudden must account for what they're doing to protect people, and all that's happening in a very imperfect, incomplete, corrupt, and dispiriting ways. And in America, with virtually no intellectual or policy support from our ostensibly left-leaning political party, but is happening in some form nonetheless. These are dangerous concepts to have lying around. Governments caring for people, health over work, everyone looking out for each other, heaven forbid. The death cultists want to extinguish whatever spark our current moment might ignite in the world. They want things to go back to the way they are, to our beloved system of grinding inequality, government apathy, and merciless individualism as